Dr. Manny, welcome to Asylum. So, the idea I'm exploring in this is that of creating love. So, it sounds weird to hear creating love because by and large, we just assume, love is this magical thing that happens and rock and roll. If it's true love, it'll last through whatever, through everything. Hey, Claire, thanks for joining. So, um, but really, love is a conscious state. It's a state of mind. It's just like any other feeling. It's something that happens in the moment and basically some neurochemistry, and then you project it onto someone. You attribute it to someone. You decide, I love this person for whatever reason. Um, and really, because it's happening in your mind, just like any other idea, any other concept, you can change it. You don't have to take the default belief version that you were given by society, the one that you were conditioned into. It's what's called an archetype. It's a template, and really the way that you learn it tacitly, implicitly, is through multiple examples, evidence that you watch your parents doing, other people who use the word love, whatever movies, sappy stories you hear from your friends, roller coaster romances that um, kind of default mode tumbled through. So by and large, we assume that love is something that's it's an instinct that we can't really control. This reckless, magical beast, basically. But really, all signs and all data is showing otherwise at this point. That, like any other state of mind, again, you have a template copy that you learned through examples from family, through life experiences, and so you have this idea, this concept of love from that. But everyone has different experiences, and some of them have certain toxic elements and broken, incomplete models, and some of us along the way have gotten hurt to the point where the fear has constrained or blocked the amount of love you're able to experience, the amount of energy you have in your mind. Because keep in mind, these are mental models. The amount of energy you have to activate this model in your mind, and beyond that, possibly your own willingness to overcome the fear of exploring that idea. And usually this happens when experiences in your life have conditioned you to possibly believe that you're not worthy of love for some reason. That's one way you can end up with a broken default version of love. Possibly um, you assumed that your worthiness of love was based on your performance, on your success, on doing certain things. Perhaps you learned a conditional model of love, a model where um, at different times you feel different levels of love worthiness, and you feel as if you have to perform and be in certain actions in order to be worthy of love and acceptance. Now, all these different ways of interpreting love. Oh, and there's one more. There's perhaps your interpretation of love that you accumulated through life is one that has an element of guilt to it. Possibly the people who loved you most deeply demonstrated love as much as they could, but they also felt a bit guilty about not being able to express more love, not being able to buy you nicer things, not being able to provide you with the best education, not being able to, in some cases, keep up with the academic or intellectual aspects of what you're learning, and feeling a bit um, ashamed for not being able to parent you through that part of life. There might be some embarrassment within the love signal that you got. Hey, Rob, thanks for dropping by, bud. So, um, there might be an element of embarrassment in there. So, This is the level version of love that you're operating with, whatever damage you've picked up along the way through these life experiences. So then the question, we go out looking for love, but the level of love that we understand, we have these patterns that we intend to act out when it's time to love. Hey Karen, thanks for dropping by. So we have these patterns, these scripts, these behaviors that we consider to be love. And the people that we who loved us, that's how they expressed it. And as such, we expect to look for that version of love out in the world. But that version of love is an erratic, misunderstood because you learned as a child, first of all. So it's kind of constrained. It's sort of simplistic. I mean, you learn this love at the same time as you were learning about Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, various other elements of society. So hey Terry, thanks for dropping by. So this is a bit of a constrained, naive version of love. Yet when it's time to update that version of love, when it's time to extend that love to your work, extend that love to a relationship, even extend that love to your children, there's a certain embarrassment that we replicate in the memories from which we learned it. And so there are certain things that we do on autopilot because of the tradition, because that's how it was taught to us, and because we feel ashamed to even question the love, the way it was delivered, because in part we feel as if we're questioning the very love that we were taught. Like, if my parents taught me love this way, and I don't express love this way, does it mean that my parents loved me less? Or does it mean that there was something wrong with the way my parents loved me? Or my community loved me? My tribe of origin demonstrated love? All these different stories and elements come into play. And in the end, a lot of people succumb to just playing out love as expected, love as scripted, bumping up against someone else's entirely different collection of life experience, acquired definitions of love. And so you end up signaling past each other with these expectations, frustrated in that you're not able, hey Donna, frustrated in that you're not able to catch each other's signals, not able to feel as if you're receiving that love that the words are saying, but the deeper feelings not matching. So all these are different ways in which you can be constrained and stuck in a naive notion of love. Because remember, we experience life through these notions that we have in mind. We see only what we believe exists. If you don't believe it, you can't see it. And as such, if you've never believed in a deeper love beyond that which you've seen and experienced, and actually that might even be if you've never questioned whether the love that you experienced thus far could be bigger, broader, more expansive, more unconditional, more supportive, more nurturing, and more healing. If you've never questioned those elements, then it's almost threatening at times. Again, because it makes you wonder, will seeing and discovering a more expansive, more powerful, more conscious love, will that diminish the value of the love you've experienced thus far? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, it's not like getting a motorcycle takes back childhood joy of riding a tricycle. You still have those elements and you still have those experiences, and they still have their full value that they had when you experienced them within the bounds of the awareness that you had at the time. So with that out the way, that eliminates a lot of the subconscious fears that drive a lot of us to not even consider the possibility of digging deep inside to open up the energy to receive a more intentional, more open, mature love. So with that out the way, the question becomes, okay, how do you create love in an intentional way? So the process begins by going inwards. You essentially have to begin by loving yourself, which means becoming more quiet and attentive to your intrinsic signals, paying more attention to the things that you value, the things that you want to see in the long run, the things that are important to you, the needs that you're feeling at different times that aren't being met, and devoting increasing amounts of your energy every day in structuring. Hey, Barb, thanks for dropping by. Increasing amounts of your energy every day in structuring your experience, your living experience, such that it contains more elements of what you love, more elements of the things that you value. Now, what's important is that as you, again, go questioning and exploring your visions of what love is, this usually involves going back into your past, thinking to the times when you felt most loved. Think about the times when you felt most valued. And then think about the things that you feel that way about when you're around. So, what things, when in your presence, in the moment, bring you a feeling of, hey Sherry, thanks for dropping by. What elements, when they're in your presence, bring back that feeling, activate that amount of that fulfillment, that completeness, that wholeness. And increasingly, you want to feel as if you have that feeling for yourself. Whether, Angie, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So you want to have that level of emotion going back towards yourself. Because anything that you felt in the past is your understanding of a concept. So now you want to return to the present. Did I get it wrong? Did I pronounce your name right, Angie? Is it Angie? Or it might be Ange. Thanks, Ra. So, you want to ask yourself during introspection, you want to be able to feel that level of feeling for yourself. Now, the question is, I've discussed this earlier in sort of the abstract, but now that we're here at this point in the idea again, we can revisit it. What will get in the way of feeling that full, whole depth of love for yourself? What will block that? So it might be that as you dig into the memories, again, you feel some guilt, you feel some shame about the way in which love was expressed to you. You have some ruptures in the relationships that were formative to you, and you haven't rebuilt those bridges, so it almost diminishes the love of past that you had with that person. And so now, when you pull back those memories, they, despite the fact that Angie, yes, got it. So, despite the fact that at the time they expressed love to maximum capacity based on their awareness then, and even at the time you experienced it as full love, maybe there were some wounds, unintentional or possibly even intentional, given the right, the unfortunate certain circumstances sometimes. But when you want to be able to see if something is blocking you from retrieving that full love, and then see what is blocking you from applying it to yourself. Because if you feel it and you can project it to others, then you can give it to yourself. Now, from the point of giving it to yourself, it should make you fully aware that you're then worthy to, based on who you are and what you value, project that love outwards onto things that are differently important to you. Now, as you develop a value preference, you'll come to see that there are certain things that you want more in your life than others. When you start to see that, and this part of the challenge in seeing that fully is that a lot of times in our culture with social class, race, gender roles, we're given our opinions often. So when you hit the juncture where it's time to explore your own opinions, your own deeper wants, your own needs that in the past have been subjugated and have made you to feel that you can't express precisely what it is you want to pursue in the way that you want to pursue it and to enjoy it despite the fact that it's not the normative view of pleasure. Hey, Don. So when that has traditionally created a film to remembering what it is that you want. And beyond that, along the way, we have different obstacles that we may not have been pleased with the way we perform in them, and we decrease our perception of our worthiness as a person, the worthiness for love. And we develop an impatience, a fear that we need to grab on to whoever happens to like us, or whatever job happens to pop up, or just about whatever is in the environment that gives us a little bit of a flicker in our heart. And sometimes not even a flicker. Hey, Jeff. Sometimes not even a flicker. Sometimes just the soothing of the uncertainty. Now, what happens often in our culture and in human nature is that there's an initial layer of attraction, which is like a surface, a magnetism to the surface signals. This is culturally taught aesthetics, some signs that this person may meet an unmet need, whether your friends think she's hot or your friends think he's hot or whatever. These are all cultural constraints that condition us into an initial selection, an initial assessment of I'm in love. Now, this is that initial roller coaster aspect. If you let your love run by default, you'll get waves of that. You'll get some high ups and downs and like cartoon level caricature type archetypal scripting in the patterns of your relationship. That's not healthy love. That's some dopamine, cortisol driven stuff. Roller coaster that might get you through some high school and a few proms and a couple years of college. But in the end, the attraction has to be a product of you having done the introspective work and gotten the clarity on your values and have set out based on those to find someone who is enough in alignment with those values so that when you're building the future that maximally pleases you, there's less degrees of compromise in the elements that please him or her. Yeah, you'll hear a lot of people talking about being open-minded and all that stuff, but mathematically, neuroscientifically, the truth is that we are attracted to a certain level of similarity in certain aspects. It simplifies the entire thought process. You have less gibberish arguments where neither person is really hearing the other. You get to the point where you have to think less because this is like you guys finish each other's sentences, and not in the surface way, but in a deeper way because you've had enough conversations and have enough clarity that you guys are rehearsing the same vision every day in your transactions. So you guys, it's not one person pushing the table and one person pulling the table and wondering why you're not getting there. So that's the benefit of the value alignment. And value alignment happens as you do the introspective work. Now, it's like, so what do you do after you discover your values and you get clear on your goals, etc., and you have that clarity of principles? Well, the truth of it is that when you set goals, you program your unconscious mind. When you ask questions, the questions, when well formed, send your mind, your subconscious, on a search for things. So if you intentionally search for love within yourself and then continue to express the love within yourself as your signal as your presence, inevitably it will attract others who resonate in that frequency. And that simply means that you will meet people whose values are aligned with yours, and who, if you're clear enough about your intention and your actions are in integrity with what you believe, what you intend is your end purpose and your end outcome, then inevitably you will be repulsive to people heading in a different direction, in another direction. Because the depth of love, true deep love, has to do with a systematic reciprocal validation of the expression of the values of the other. I'm doing my best, you're doing your best at the thing that we are individually passionate about, heading in the direction of an outcome that we both want as the place that is most fulfilling. So it's not me giving up my future vision for you. It's not you giving up your future vision for me. There's no misunderstanding of why I am being me the way I am, because this is the only way I know how to be and could possibly ever be. It's inevitable. This is the manifestation of my essence. And implicit in that is that you're not entering in a relationship with someone with the intention of changing them, nor are you entering it with the intention of keeping them the same, because they are going to change if you support them and nurture them enough to allow them to unfold into whatever their essence has initially inspired them to be. That's if you help them maintain that higher frequency of being, stay in their better self, their higher self, as opposed to if you impose meaning on them, if you make your love that you give to them conditional on who they become, and how they are being in the moment. If you're ignoring their expression, their values, and as such you're not validating them, so they develop a sense of neglect, a sense of starvation, then you're creating control, you're not creating love. Because again, remember, love it's a similarity measure. It's seeing me reflected in you after I have done the work to learn to love myself deeply. Because no one can love you beyond the love that you have for yourself, and you can't love anyone beyond the love that you have for yourself. And as such, if you're putting out a signal that has a conflated version of love and guilt, love and shame, love and embarrassment, love and tired, love and boredom, love and obsession, love and envy, love and jealousy, love and scarcity, love and contempt, if when you're signaling your love, you're signaling those elements, you're going to attract someone who is going to see themselves with those limitations reflected in you. So, without having done the work of creating love inwards, so as to put out a signal outwards that clearly signals not just the level at which you are currently vibrating, the current level of your consciousness and your intention to continue to expand your consciousness, but you also need to signal the direction in which you intend to continue to expand. And that is signaled as your values, the enaction of your values. If you're not moving, if you're not thinking, if you're not expressing yourself, if you're not actively daily making a practice of growing and signaling that in a way that will repulse and repel anyone who is planning to stay stagnant, then you won't be creating love in an interpersonal way. Now, beyond that, there's how do you create love in art? You create love in art through a daily practice. Again, you got to go in yourself and figure out what you're passionate enough about to be doing it all the time on autopilot. Because the majority of your learning that you're going to do is not with your conscious mind. The majority of the learning you're going to do is subconsciously through the things that you're constantly drawn to by curiosity that borders on obsession. That level of passion can't be extrinsically motivated. People can't scare you into that level of love. People can't tempt you into that level of love. They can get some lust out of you. They can sex you into oblivion and keep you around for a few months, but eventually, eventually, the novelty will wear off and that cortisol dopamine spike will fade into a boredom and a frustration when you realize that you found yourself in a situation in which you've constrained that intrinsic spark that inevitably will emerge. So that's why all the preparation work, all the talk about get to know yourself, um, and develop an acceptance of yourself, a trust of yourself, just develop everything within yourself that you want to see within someone else because you're not going to find it in them. You're going to attract it to yourself as a result of having taken the time to do the work to grow it within yourself and to know how to recognize it and to make it such a part of your own identity that you understand that there's going to be a reciprocal trust, communication, adjusting, clarifying in the pursuit of some outside entity. Now, when you've done that depth of work, it shows in your art, it shows in your work, it shows in your words, it shows in your music, it shows in your dance, it shows in your gestures, it shows in your relationships. And your presence becomes eminent in the things that you contact. They have your signature. That's how it shows up in art. It shows up in art and in labor as mastery. Like a person who works with words constantly will be able to, within the choice of two words, just convey to you a depth of meaning that tells you, and one of my coaches calls it semantic density. It's that you get better and better at creating more depth of presence in any given moment by focusing your energy like a laser in that moment. That level of presence at that moment creates love there. And if you do it again and again and again and again, and you remain present the whole time, there is a transformative bridge there that will appear. And the quality changes of the thought process, the quality of the relationship with the process outside of you, the quality of the connection with the people with whom you've done the work. Things around you, and some people like the word manifest, depends on what mood you catch me in. As you create that level of presence, that level of synchrony, that level of meaning in the moment with more than one person, there's a synergy. And by returning to that moment, returning to that presence again and again, and with each moment being aware of all the possibility that is there in that moment, and making choices in that moment that are in alignment with the values that you've discovered during your depth of search repeatedly. Returning to the focus, returning to the process. You'll look back over time and you will see that you have created love in that space. So that's how I think of creating love. It's Dr. Manny. Thank you for joining me in Asylum. I'm out.